Hello and welcome to another development show. I think this is number 9. I might be wrong. I think it is 9. We're just squeezed into March, so yeah, that sounds about right. 4 a month. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about right. Yeah, happy 1st of March, or March the 1st, as you'd say in the US, Anthony.
Oh, yes. Well, my birthday's on leap year, so birthday was yesterday. So some people would
Okay.
like to think that I celebrated on the first because it's the 29th of February. So, so this day is kind of a
Wow.
unique day for me. Yeah.
So you're only a quarter of the age that you are, really.
There you go. There you go. That's definitely an icebreaker in any conversation. So, how old are you?
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't think I know anybody else that's got a birthday on the 29th of February.
Yeah, it's a rarity, that's for sure. A
You can have
rarity.
two, but you can have 2 days, can't you? Really, the 28th of February and the 1st of March. It's
Oh, there you go. Yes, spread it on out a little bit. I love it. I love it.
so yeah, we're joined by Anthony Mitchell, who has an amazing story. When we kind of connected with Anthony, and he told me about this. To be honest, I've been thinking about it, and I just don't know. I just don't know. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll kind of let you know why. Well, I guess Anthony can explain a little bit if you want to introduce yourself, Anthony, and your rare genetic condition.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on the show with you, Ward. I really appreciate it. Always enjoy the opportunity to be able to, tell my story and give my message. Yes, my name is Anthony Mitchell. I was born with a rare genetic condition, which left me without any sweat glands. I wanted to eventually tell my story, so I wrote a book about as I was journaling along my life. I decided to go ahead and just put it in print and write my book, Living Without Sweat Glands. It's a rare genetic condition. Time of maybe only 1,700 children a year were born with it. Instead of hanging my head low, and which I had a percentage of time I did that until I woke up and realized that I wanted to be able to tell my story. And as I've been able to overcome some of the challenges in my life and been able to excel in them, eventually it started out athletically and then eventually in school. Um, what I always want to do is be able to, you know, help the children, high school and college, approach their goals and dreams as if they were no sweat, as I lived my life living without sweat glands. Um, as a child, living and growing up in Texas in the humid weather, it was very difficult. So I had to do a lot of compromising. Thankful with the blessings of my parents to, make it comfortable for me. They didn't know I'd lived past a teenager when I was born. So they noticed some difference. Something was different. Something wasn't right. So of course they went back to the doctor, and of course he took me through some tests and everything, and they came up with the diagnosis. So put me in these different rooms, temperature rooms, and that was one of the tests that they'd given me. And of course, they and yet with not a lot of information known about it at the time, they decided to, that was what they had given a lifespan of me. Of, didn't think I'd live past a teenager with the rarity of the condition and not very little known about it. And touches all 5 of your senses, some more prevalent in others. So after going through childhood and just making it as comfortable as I can, as my parents did, just staying in a cooler environment, not much playing outside with the other little kids during the warm weather. If I did, it was very short limited. So I would just stay in a cool air environment in the house, and then I'd go back out. Eventually my parents advised me to I'd wear a wet towel around my leg, around my neck, and then that keep me a little bit cooler, a little longer. Then of course, summertime, just staying in the swimming pool, the local pool. That was one of my most frequent places to go. And other than staying in the house, doing a lot of reading and writing, cultivated my poetry since from a child up until to date. So, I eventually going forward, I was challenged in a lot of different job positions. One of my first older jobs was a local supermarket. Wasn't expected to get the job because I felt on my responsibility to let them know my condition. So they didn't want to take that liability. Fortunately, my father worked for the company, and he put a good word in for me, of course, and they went ahead on and just let me know that if anything comes to that, you get too hot or whatever, you need to take yourself out. But I didn't want it to ever get to that. So working at the first job I had, the local supermarket, full of tire and everything, having taken a tour through the building and everything, I eventually realized there were freezers here. There was my safe haven, cooler environments, the walk-in coolers and things like that. So, obviously a light bulb went off, and so I would work as hard as I could, and I would basically just disappear and cool down. Didn't want to let them know because I didn't want to have that to interrupt me working there. So I had to compromise. So I did that, and then I'd get back out there to work, and eventually, it became a little bit aware of what's going on. And I just, give them a story. I stayed at that employer for 3 years, just making, accommodating myself the best I could because I wanted this job. I wanted to keep this job. I want to let my condition or, the warm weather, which is there, stop that from happening. So that was one of the biggest challenges I had growing up for my first job working in a warm environment.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's certainly a story of adaptability. Um, um, I'm probably going to ask some silly questions, and if anyone's listening, because obviously we are live. That if anyone wants to drop any comments in, then we can ask. So excuse me if I'm going to ask some stupid questions, but I'm trying to I'm trying to understand this. So we sweat to help regulate body temperature.
Right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong at any point.
Yeah,
I'm going
correct.
through my basic biology.
That is correct. You're totally
So
correct on that.
so your body temperature is actually normal range. It's just the inability to cool yourself down.
Right. Your body has a cooling system, as you stated.
Yeah, yeah.
My body doesn't have a cooling system. I have to manually cool myself. And of course, since I've had it since a child, I am aware where I shouldn't be for a longer period of time than others. So I'm able to, you know, uh, accommodate myself and stay away from that to where it's a lot less of a problem for me than it was, of course, growing up. But it's
Yeah.
still prevalent. I can't say that I never have those moments where it's too hot. I still have them. I just know how to, accommodate myself, as I said. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's out of sweat. A joke I had with friends growing up. I tell them you'll never see me sweat. You'll never make me sweat. That and I'd say that with confidence, and of course, eventually over the years, and of course, those that really knew me knew that was a true statement.
Yeah. I just find it absolutely fascinating. So how old were you when you were kind of diagnosed? I mean, it must have been a long diagnosis. It's not I can't imagine it being a quick, immediate thing that the doctors jumped to.
No, it was a process. I was probably within a year old when they noticed the continuous crying, wasn't able to tell them what's wrong and everything. And of course, they could feel my body and notice that I would be warm, and that would be something that a mother, of course, would know. Anyone, of course, but a mother knows, and she knows that there's something that's not right, and of course, taking a temperature and everything, and of course, you taking that information and some of the reasons that they noticed that I would cry to the doctor. And of course, he did a thorough analysis and things of that nature. And then a lot more of the symptoms became more prevalent, from dentures. I never had any teeth. There were no teeth born. But I think I had approximately 2 to 3 teeth. in my mouth. So that was, of course, one of the signs, and the biggest one was not sweating. Even a child can sweat.
Mhm.
So with those, they run their tests of other things, and they came up with that. As far as an exact time, I couldn't tell you as far as when they came up with the other, but it wasn't very long after that. And of course, as time went on, more of the symptoms became more prevalent.
Because we talked about being able and continue to adapt, which I'm guessing because you're more aware now, you're a lot older now, that you're a lot more sensible, a lot more mature about it. So um but I should imagine that the adaptions that you've taken, or learning to adapt, is something that you've then taken on into adult life as well, through college and career.
Well, maybe that was premature to say adapt, and it may very well be compromise. Maybe some more of a sensible word for it, because give you another example, and just being blessed to be able to working out to where I didn't have to get to that point where I wasn't able to handle it. But for as sports in school, actually, I go for a little further, that a job opportunity I had working, going through academy training for a correctional officer, and we had to do a lot of running. Of course, as you may be aware of. So running out I was in Florida at the time, so I wasn't in Texas anymore. I was in Florida. So you had to do 2 to 3 miles, and sometimes it could be longer depending on the trainer. And I had to get out and run in that. But prior to that, um, we were told that we were going to do some running outside. I went up to the instructor and I let him know that would it be all right if I soaked my uniform? So no, I'm sure he definitely gave me the blank stare for a moment, and then of course, he said, that's fine. That'll be fine. And I added another thing. I said, would it all right if I take a wet towel with me? I was got a response from him, and he said, it's fine. Do what you have to do. So I did that, and out as we were running, it didn't take long for my clothes from the heat, that it felt like I jumped in a pool of hot water. That's how hot the sun was. So,
Mhm.
and the towel was just as warm. So, but during that run, just when I felt like it would be a little bit too much and I may have to step aside, we would stop for our breaks. So we did that through the 3 mile training, and I basically pushed the envelope a little bit more than any doctor would advise me to do. I did, and I was able to get carried through. So that would have been more of a little compromising there, and became blessed to be able to not have to go any further than I needed to.
Yeah, but it's really the ability to think ahead, to think of what circumstances you might fall into.
Right.
And this is why I use the word adaptability and adapt, because you do. And whether you're talking about physical or mental, we can use the word I was going to use the word trigger. We can have some, whether it's a physical or a mental thing, we can have something that makes us go, okay, I've got this condition. Or and I think condition kind of covers quite a lot of things, but to then go, okay, I've got this condition, I'm going into this environment, how am I going to adapt what I need to do to this environment to understand, to make sure I can do as much as I possibly can. And
Exactly.
I think that this is a skill um, that not everybody learns. I think a lot
Okay.
of people become reactive to situations rather than proactive.
Right. Yeah.
So I should imagine this is something that you've taken forwards as well.
Most definitely. And if I could give you 1,000 scenarios where I had to do that, Those were only a couple that I given you, but yeah, and it's an ongoing process. So my initial response would be if I'm ever presented with that, it's going to be a warm environment or it's going to be a little bit too much for me. Of course, I had to think about what it's going to entail from the beginning, and then it's a judgment call. Of course, I'd love to say that I always felt like this is something I'm going to go all the way through. I just go as long as I possibly can. And hopefully no health issues arise and everything. Being that the doctors told made me aware that I could possibly have a seizure and things of those natures. Of course, those thoughts never crossed my mind. It would only get to the point where I would have a headache, maybe, my eyes would get a little coloration in them, but I never felt anything like that coming on me, whatever that felt like. I never felt that, but yeah, I feel like it was just a stand on trying to be a productive citizen and enjoy life, just like any child or as an adult. Being a productive citizen in life, I wanted to make sure that I could try to do that. And grace of God, He's opened doors for me. He's been with me through the challenges and blessed to be able to get through them. And I want to be able to tell those stories, and be able to inspire others. We all know there are people that have challenges, disabilities and things, and they've continued to excel and raise the bar every time. And I feel I'm one of those people, just as many others out there. And I want to be able to, pass the baton, as they say, or encourage or inspire others in whatever way I can.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to talk about of risk management, and everyone has different risks, and you push you can push if you've got the right mindset, you'll keep pushing yourself, and you will manage the risks and step out when you need to, and say, actually, I can't do any more. I can't go any further. This is where I get off this particular
Right. And
bus.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I do want to remind
Yeah.
you to add to that as well, because no matter how far you go, you've broken down some doors. I have to look at it like that as well. So rather, I've completed the task that was presented before me. I went as far as I possibly could. So I definitely overcame. A greater word to say, I overcame. So I looked at it like that too, because the ending may not have been in something that was necessary. I just needed to prove that I could go as far as I could. And if the ending was me to complete, the tasks or the duties ahead, then I'll take it. But if
Mhm.
it's me to just go farther than I thought I could, then I'll take that as well. So I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah. No. I was going to say that you know, just because we might not complete what we think doesn't mean that we shouldn't start. Um,
Right.
there's a phrase that I absolutely love, and I've used it a few times. And it's an athletics phrase of don't leave anything out on the track.
Mhm.
And I love that phrase because it doesn't mean that you have to complete something. You have to be the best. You have to be better than anybody else. It's at the end of the day, do you sit there and say, I could have tried harder, or I actually gave that everything that I've got and I've left nothing out there? Um,
Right.
in my past, I've run a lot of endurance events, and I was never quick.
Mm.
And um, but at the end, it was kind of like, could I have given that any more today? And as long as I was honest with myself and could say no, that was everything that I had, then the time didn't matter, the distance didn't matter. And I think that with life, when we're faced with adversities, it's the same thing. It's like, actually, okay, I might not have been able to complete this, or I might not have been able to do that, but it's asking that honest question: could I have done more? Have I left anything out on that track? And I think that is And I think this is why your story is so kind of inspirational. That your your genetic condition is so rare
Yeah, yeah,
that
it
there's
is.
not much understanding. There's probably not much funding into into looking at why it happens, and
Right.
possible. I guess there's no cures, but
No.
because it's so rare that the funding isn't there to look into it further. So
Well, there is. I'm sorry, I neglected to say there's continued research on genetic conditions,
mm,
as you know, and I was able to research it to the point where I found there are certain medical association organizations that are looking into this particular condition, and
okay,
it's something that I went as far to find out that they're looking into getting into the genetics uh, before the baby is born. And
hmm
that, as far as my knowledge could take me as far as reading the information. But yeah, I got as far as that, and it may be an ongoing process.
so we'll fast forward a little bit to kind of present day. So you go into high schools, do you, and talk to college students um, about disabilities and their goals and dreams, and not being held back. That's something you're quite passionate about.
Yes, because I think those are key moments in a child's life. Usually, trying to figure out what they want to do. Is it their challenges that are in front of them? Should they just give up and go what other route that they may have in place because they feel like they may not be able to? Um, I wanted to be able to at least give them that little nudge. Then my life, I wrote books about the challenges and the things that I had to, go through and be blessed to overcome. And I two self-published book, Living Without Sweat Glands, and my second book, No Sweat. So I want to not only to use those tools, but at the same time, my coaching program, which is titled Never Give Up, and I go over some of the things that will be able to assist them, teach techniques and tips that'll be able to assist them, and help them to get a little further down the road and help them to come up with their own, uh, ways of getting through certain challenges in their life, and I really aspire to do that as much as I possibly can. So yes, definitely, high school and college are definitely the two areas that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think that when someone's got a story to tell, it's always worth encouraging them to tell that story, even though it's quite unique to that person.
Hmm.
People can learn so much from other people's journeys, especially when that person is quite honest and open and willing to share. That we can take that inspiration from the person and say, actually, some of the life lessons that they've learned,
Hmm.
I can take on board as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, so kind of, I'm going to drop this on you. Um, so really, kind of, what? Okay, let's go for an easy one to start with. Um, and we're going to go with kind of what kept you going, what kept you motivated. But then I kind of want to get on to um, some of the life lessons that you've learned that you'd love to pass on, or you try to pass on.
Mhm.
But kind of what kept you kind of motivated, because things must have been quite. It must have been quite easy to think, you know what, I'm just going to stop indoors. I'm just going to stop cold or cool. I'm going to go and find myself a job in a chiller, and kind of almost close part of your life, or certainly make your world a little bit smaller because of it.
Right.
So, so kind of what did keep you going? What kept you motivated to keep trying to push the envelope?
Well, I was born in a faith-based family, believing in God, and God creates greatness, and we are His creation. And that was something that, growing up in church and everything, that is something that kept me most definitely. Of course, I had those moments where it was tough, and I did woe is me, and but as I began to, build a stronger and closer relationship with God growing up. And it definitely helped me tremendously. And I began to start seeing the challenges kind of fade away, and I began to go further in my life, excel from getting my first job and getting my own place and being able to see other parts of the world and things that I didn't think I'd be able to have the capability of doing. But I could go on and on how many doors he opened up. So believing in God and keeping him first is definitely is the biggest thing that kept me going. And my father was an entrepreneur, and I began to notice a lot of those things and didn't realize a lot of it until I think back. And that is something that got me into my entrepreneur. Using I used to I have this prayer that I continue to do. God bless me with the gifts He's given me to praise His name, and I thank God for the gifts He's given me and to praise His name in each and every one of them. Poetry was something I always did. Being the one that stayed home a lot in the house. When it was warm outside, when all the other kids were out there, I used to do a lot of writing. So writing poetry was almost something I could do without thinking about it. And so eventually I utilized that in my poetry book and, my customized design T-shirts and everything. So there was always something that kept me going, keeping God first, said, and using the gifts He's given me that was that continuous motor as well, and always creating continuously something I have in my mind that may have been haven't been put down on paper yet, but those are things that definitely kept me going.
Yeah, that's great. I think that it's true, kind of. When we talk about faith and things, and I'm not going to get into kind of any religion
Mhm.
discussions on this show, and it's not really about that. But yeah, when we talk about faith, having faith in something is so powerful.
Mhm. Most
Um, and it can kind of does drive you forwards, because I think that faith kind of fits into having a positive mindset as well.
most definitely.
I don't think that you could have strong faith and have a negative mindset.
Correct. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
They're kind of two negatives working together in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So it's kind of the second part of the question was, what life lessons do you think you've learned the most that you'd love to pass on, or you do pass on, you do talk about?
oh yeah, most definitely. Knowing when to reach out for help. A lot of times a lot of us can fall into that realm of, I'll figure it out myself. I'll do it myself. I don't need anybody. You know, uh,
I've been there. I've been
uh,
there.
yeah, you got to be able to realize that maybe I can, and networking, of course, reach out and ask for some help and for assistance in something, and it may be just a couple of questions, and then you take it from there. And it may be an ongoing as we have mentors that hold yourself accountable. As
Mhm.
always good at someone else to hold you accountable and kind of giving you that nudge from time to time. But that would be one of the biggest things, knowing when to reach out for help, you
Mm.
know, and uh, and always keep a positive, as much as you possibly can, a positive attitude. If you wake up in the morning and you feeling and you're just with this negative mindset, it's probably gonna pretty much resonate through the rest of the day. You gotta kind of, you gotta have that positive mindset, Charlie, as soon as you get up, and starting your day.
Mhm.
Those are definitely keep you.
Yeah, I think that kind of reaching out to people, it is. I've been guilty of that. Of going, oh well, I'll just figure it out. I'll figure it out, and then you
Mm,
kind of end up, and then you have a conversation with someone, and you go, oh, if only I'd asked that a couple of months ago, I wouldn't have wasted the last 2 months trying to figure it out myself. But I think what's important when we reach out to people is not to find someone that says, well, I'll do that for you,
mm,
because I
right.
don't think there's any learning experience in that.
No, well, as they say, you want to be able to pass on something that they can use on a continuous or as much as they can, a continuous basis. Yeah, if you do it for them, how far are you going to be able to get them with that?
Mhm.
So to me, it's not really effective in a good way.
Yeah, it's I think, kind of, I think a good life lesson as well, from your story is don't let adversity hold you back. We all, we all have something that we can, what's the word, we can blame
Mm,
for failures. Oh well, if I didn't have this, then that wouldn't have happened, and if I didn't have this, then I could have done that. And I think that's quite a big lesson that I'm getting from your story. Is why I've got this. How do I adapt? What do I need to do to be able to live my life, to do what I want to do?
right. Yeah, man, excuses are good for nothing, because we all can dig a bucket full of excuses and what do you got? You're not gonna be able to do anything with those. So I mean, you can acknowledge, you know, what's in front of you, but to use them as a reason not going forward, I mean, that's an end to nowhere, and you're
Hmm.
standing there using those and they pretty much will resonate in anything you do. So it could be a career, but it could be almost anything, in life that you experience. You have an excuse and you decide not to go forward because of that excuse. So yeah, those are good for nothing, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you can list off. We can list off a long list of excuses that people use, and
Mhm.
and it's that I love that story. I might have mentioned it before on the show, but I love that story of two brothers, and one was a homeless alcoholic, and the other was a successful businessman, and they were both asked why have they ended up where they ended up, and the drunk homeless brother said, because my dad was a drunk homeless man. And they asked
Wow.
the successful brother, and he said, because my dad was a drunk homeless man.
Wow.
And
Uh,
and there's things that you can either use an excuse, or you can use as a reason and a motivation to get through it. I mean, that story, I mean, there's lots of different versions of it, and
right.
who originally told it, and there's a much longer version. But yeah, it was saying, I am who I am because of my circumstances. Now we get to choose and dictate what we make of the circumstances that we have, and it's a very powerful it's a very powerful lesson. And I think that with your genetic condition, it probably a lot easier just to, I don't want to say make excuses, just to accept that you'd got it and lived your life within those limitations,
Most
rather
definitely.
yeah, rather than saying, okay, I have these limitations, but what is that actually going to stop me doing?
Right,
I'm
right.
impressed you're running 3 miles in Florida.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, most definitely. You're hoping that a few raindrops will fall to kind of cool you off. But yeah, it was tough up there. And I thought Texas was the worst. Then eventually I started venturing out younger in life. And yeah, there are other places that get pretty warm too. Uh,
So even
so
even that hasn't held you back from visiting places and going, well, actually, no, it's going to be too warm there, so I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go here instead. So even that's not held you back from saying, actually, no, I'm going to go. I'm going to go where I want to go.
yeah, actually Seattle was the first place, or Vegas. When I left here, I went to Vegas for a few years, and then I went off to Seattle. I was debating on Atlanta to pursue my music, Atlanta or Seattle. because those were the two schools that were there, our Art Institute of Seattle, and the Art Institute of Atlanta. And I debating on which one to go, and I decided to go to Seattle. I heard it was nicer there after, but at the time, I was just wanting to see other places, wanted to venture out, and I
Mhm.
even off to Seattle. But other places, I just I want to go here. I wasn't. Of course, I didn't have any children, and I wasn't married or anything. I wanted to see as much of the world as I could. Growing up in a small town, there wasn't a whole lot going on, so I wanted to see other parts of the world. And never been in the military, of course, so this was the one way that I felt I could do it.
Yeah, I suppose that there is that restriction there as well, isn't there?
Yep,
You
other
see, it's just when we talk about it, and I just think, wow, it's you don't realize how kind of restricting it could be. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that it could be if you allowed it to be.
mm, most
So
definitely.
let's get on to and I love talking about people that inspire other people to kind of to kind of move on. So what kind of figures were in your life that kind of helped you inspire? And they might be personal figures, they might be, I was going to say famous figures, but my knowledge of famous people is very poor, so you might have to explain who some of them are.
Oh man, how many of them? Well, I knew I wasn't the only one. Well, at the time, of course, you're thinking you're the only one, and who could you use as motivation for you, inspiration to you? So athletically, sports. As a lot of us know, sports. So the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was because I enjoyed basketball, but in track, which was actually one of my favorite, track and field, uh, Carl Lewis. Of course,
Mhm,
he didn't have the challenges that I had, but just that I enjoyed that particular sport, and I wanted to excel in it, not knowing I had the ability for speed until it was recognized from my coaches and PE teachers and things. But yeah, those two, because I enjoyed those two sports, those are the two that I definitely looked up to and followed their careers, and others followed as well, and it was a continuous motivation, the things I enjoyed doing. And then you're
mhm.
looking at the challenges you had and realizing that you could possibly be an inspiration for someone else. So you start looking within, and so that's what that came about. And I enjoyed those, so I didn't let the challenges prevent me.
Yeah, I remember Carl Lewis,
Yeah,
and just my memories of him was a professional athlete, and I mean that in the sense of there was there was never any controversy about him. He was always had this clean image that he was dedicated to his craft. He was the fastest in the world because of who he was, not necessarily because of his natural ability,
yeah.
but because of the hard work, the dedication, the life that he led.
Oh yeah.
And that kind of what set him apart.
Most definitely it did. And to add to that, not to shift a little bit, but Bob Beeman, he's
Mhm.
actually the one that kind of stuck out as far as one of the first. He's a track and field as well. I had a pretty unique way of long jumping. That was one of my sports. I had to I was actually in 5 events in track and field growing up. Led my anchored all my relay, you know, I ran the 100, 200, and I high jump, long jump, and sprint relay. I had to anchor those, so I was totally involved in the sport. And when I long jump, I didn't use the traditional, form that you're supposed to have. So my unique way of long jumping, as I was researching and brought to my attention as well, Bob Beeman had that same. He had a unique way of long jumping, and he became one of the biggest long jumpers out there at the time. And So that kind of gave me, okay, just because you don't have that exact form and how you do a certain event or whatever that may be in life, of course, doesn't mean that you can't excel in it. So I always get other teammates would try to get me to do the correct way that you long jump, and it never seemed to work out. I just run as fast as I can, and I would just try to form my body to keep me going in the air. That was it until I got
Yeah.
to my destination.
Yeah. It's again, you look at some of the talented geniuses that are around, and so many have broken the mold of what you're supposed to do.
Almost definitely. Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw Bob Beamon. I think you're a little bit older than me, but I certainly know the name, and I mean, what was his name? Dick Frosby, and the high jump, and
Okay.
he
Yeah.
completely changed the way that everyone did the high jump. But at the time, I should imagine there were people saying, "No, you don't jump like that."
Right. Right. Most definitely. So everyone has their own style. That doing the high jump as well. I jumped it like a hurdle. I couldn't get my body to draw the. It just felt funny to twist your back like that, and I was always afraid. What if I came down the wrong way? So I wanted to keep my back as straight as I could as I go over the high jump, and
Yeah,
so it was going to limitate me as far as getting how high you can go. Because some cases you have to try to compromise that form, and I couldn't see myself doing it too much, but still was blessed to be able to excel in it. But
mm,
yeah, there's no standard anymore. You gotta work it the best way you can and excel in it if possible.
yeah, and don't be afraid to be different.
Don't
I
be
think that,
straight.
yeah, I think that's a great lesson.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for your time this evening. It's been absolutely fascinating. Um, yeah. Is there anything you'd like to leave anyone with? And we're going to have people watch this on the replay as well, and not just
Mhm.
live. Um, across 3 platforms. So, is there any pearls of wisdom, or anything you'd love to leave people with, or something you've heard that's really stuck with you?
Yeah, I actually do have something I like to read. It's titled Words of Wisdom. It's one of my poems that I definitely use as a continuous motivation for me because I feel like that, you know, it keeps me in it. It's something that I wrote actually quite a long time ago. It's called Words of Wisdom. Learning from those who bless me with their knowledge and all that God has taught them in their journey. Although there's much more for me to learn in life, having faith in God leaves no room for worry. Challenges, or some may call obstacles in my path, I rise to the occasion to move forward nonetheless. That's my poem there. It's called Words of Wisdom. And
Awesome.
yeah, it's always good to have a poem that kind of give you that boost as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for sharing that and sharing your time with us.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you, Ward. I appreciate you for allowing me to be on.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for everyone for watching. We've had some viewers from Facebook and YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. So again, I'm totally grateful that we have the opportunity to not only have conversations, but to allow people into these conversations as well. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it again. And anytime, I look forward to any opportunity that I'm able to tell my story and be able to inspire someone else. So,
yeah, thank you so much. And if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask, if they're watching on replays or anytime, then just please send them over to me, and I'll make sure Anthony gets them, and we'll try and answer your questions for you. So yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you all soon. Bye bye.
most bye bye. Have a good one.